You're welcome to the Iarmhi TV Club podcast, episode number 16, where tonight we're going to look back on all the games in the past almost week now at this stage, and we've had so much action, I think, since we had our last podcast, it's hard to know where to start. But anyway, I'm joined tonight on my left by Brendan Shaw, and on my right, Pat O'Brien. Pulled himself away from the celebration in Castleton, brought in tonight at great expense, and then Eddie Casey on our right hand side. Thanks very much, lads, for joining us here this evening.
Right.
It's hard to know where to start. We've had that much stuff going on. But I think what we'll do first of all, we'll have a look at the football games that we had over the weekend. So the first game we had was on the Saturday, the Shane Murtagh precast intermediate football final. Tuberclare 17 points, Shandona 15. Now, I think a lot of our prediction in this game was that it was going to be a close affair, Brendan, and that's exactly how it turned out.
Yeah, it went right down to the wire. I think it went to the third minute of injury time for Taylor Slevin to kick a two-pointer, and it was a great way to win it, but a very heartbreaking loss for Shandona. You know, it was so tight, that game, all the way through, and very little separated them. And it probably overall, Tuberclare probably were the better team and were deserving winners. They just seemed to dominate the middle third. Owen McCabe there, and their number 15, Gavin Delaney had a big man there, and they dominated the physical contest there in that. And it wasn't a day for pretty football. It was a kind of a wettish day, and wind, and so look at Tuberclare. They've been in finals and semi-finals for the last number of years and haven't got over the line, but Lady looked down on them on Saturday, and I think that was, they're a fine team, and I think they'll do well at senior next year.
Yeah, they're a young and up and coming team. They're a big physical team. Eddie, you were in at the game as well. Bit of controversy at the end of it, where there was called for a breach for the two men up, but the referee didn't blow it, and Taylor Slevin put everything to rest then by kicking a massive 2-pointer with pretty much second last kick of the match.
Yes, it looked like the ref didn't want to make history by being the first ref to make a controversial decision at the time, but it would have been the correct decision to make, and I suppose Tuberclare kicked a huge 2-pointer. I suppose Shandona, whatever plan they had, really came to fruition, because we know the score in the game earlier in the season, and I suppose maybe it was good management on Shandona's behalf. We were here at the podcast speaking about that a couple of weeks ago. We didn't know what way to look at it, but obviously Shandona had their homework done. They said we get these boys late on the season and into a county final, and they came very, very close. They missed a few. Ball bobbled up in front of Gareth Carr, just bobbled up in front of him, put it over the bar. Tom Malloy got through for a great goal, just skimmed the crossbar with the ball. Shandona were there all the way through and left the pitch very disappointed. Very disappointed.
Yeah. It was one of those games, Pat. It was tight, and there weren't that many goal scoring chances in it. Eddie has hit two of them. I can't really remember Cian Malloy and the Shandona goals having to make too many saves. Good defensive play all around, and unusual in the modern game that we had no goals. 17 points to 15.
Yeah, look, I personally wasn't at the match. I can't relate a whole lot to it, but the boys will tell you more. Look, all I can say is it was a huge contrast from the first game. We were here at the podcast one day wondering, was it self-inflicted by Shandona as a decision making to maybe wait for down the line, but you always have to get over your semi-final. I seen Tuberclare up close twice this year. They looked very impressive. Matthew Whittaker, I only seen him in the last semi-final day. He was exceptional, and by all accounts he was exceptional again on Saturday. But to have talented players with McCabe in the middle of the field and whatever, but it was great for a spectacle that it was so close, and credit goes to Shandona for making it such an entertaining final. It's heartbreak to lose on split decisions and maybes and whatever, but these are the small margins in sport. You have to accept them and move on. They were unfortunate last year to come down from senior. They'll learn from it all, they'll work hard at it, and I'm sure they will just put it behind them in a couple of weeks' time and say, well, we'll go back to where we started from, and we'll make sure we put all the wrongs right in the coming year.
Tuberclare, Brendan, on Saturday, they had big performers, and I suppose their big players stood up, and in particular, Pat has already mentioned Matty Whittaker. 3 points. I think he more or less lined out nearly as a wing forward. He had number 7 on his back, but he was especially over in the first half. He was over on that right hand side, on the terrace side, pushing forward at every opportunity. But Fred Kelleher stood up in the second half as well. He kicked a 2-pointer and a single pointer. Tom Burke was good on throughout it. And, I think I had down with 4 of their 6 forwards scoring.
Yeah, I mean, Matty Whittaker, he plays that role of he drives forward at every opportunity, and same again on Saturday. He carries the fight to the opposition. And he's ably assisted, as you say, by Tom Burke and Fred Keller. Like Tom Burke would have played under 20 football with Westmeath this year for a little bit, and you can see they're all quality footballers. And some of the old guys, like Cathal Ty there, full back, had a great game too. A really experienced campaigner, and he kind of ran the show there at the back really for Tubber Clare. And Stephen McGonigal there is a quality player too. He had a fine game. He's been a panelist with Westmeath as well. So they're a real footballing team, and they have the 41 guys tugged out on Saturday, which is a serious panel, so they're a club that's going places, and they have been building towards this, in the last number of years. They've had minor and under 20 teams competing at the very top level, so they're a young team. There's a lot of potential there for them in the future.
Yeah, and Shane Donoghue was on co-comms with me again, and he called it the young man at left corner back. He didn't spend much of his time back in the left corner back position but he came forward in the first half and he kicked a cracking 45.
I have him down for 3 scores in the game. And I suppose the difference in the teams for me in the day was the Tubber Clare forward line was just that little bit sharper.
Yeah.
I like Connell at 14. I thought he was dangerous. I think he's got a big potential. I've seen him a couple of years at minor as well. And I suppose the key thing for them now is to go into Division 2 senior, whatever it's called, Division B,
Section B,
whatever it is. They need to come out of that. They need to come out of that. They need to go straight into quarter final. That's their target. Otherwise, they're into that playing in that Division 2. When what happens in Division 2, they need to go. That has to be their target. Straight into quarter final of a championship next year. For Shandona, I think that the key for them is to keep those players that are between 24 and 28. To keep that group of players, because they have underage coming. They have a couple of little brilliant players coming through that they'll need those 27, 28 year lads there when they come.
Protect them. They were right in it, in fairness to them. And that game could have gone anywhere. But Garrett Carr with 2 points, Danny Scahill with a 2-pointer, and Dara Conn with their half back line all scored. Tom Malloy probably was a little bit quieter than they would have liked. He wasn't on the ball that much, but I think credit to Tubber Clare, they had their homework done.
Yeah, I kind of thought his last 15-20 minutes was the Tom Malloy I seen about 4 or 5 years ago when he was getting a little bit run with the county, and he's that playmaker style of player. He suits the modern game. He's like Ron O'Toole out of St. Lomans. He's good on the ball. He sees a pass. And as I said, their backline, Danny Scahill was outstanding on Saturday. He was outstanding, and Carr had a great last 20 minutes as well when he drove them forward. And again, they're the kind of guys I'm talking about that need to stay at it now and need to drive them on and have a base there for their next underage crew that comes through.
Yeah, well, look, a word on both sets of management, Brendan. Keith Higgins came into Tubber Clare at the start of this year, and Keith is one of these men. He's worked with a good few clubs down around the south end of the county and has had success with them. And I'm thinking of his time with Tang, and he's been with a couple of more down there. But came into Tubber Clare and really just seemed to be a calm and influence on the sideline with them as well, and kept a cool head when that game was tight, and just seemed just a little bit of experience to get them over the line.
And sometimes that's somebody coming in like that from the outside can see things a little bit different than someone on the inside, and he has that experience. He has been around the circuit, as they say, with teams, and he showed he probably learned from some of those experiences and passed that on to the Tubber Clare team. And I was just echo what Eddie was saying there. I was very impressed with Keelan Connell there at full forward, a really big, strong target man, and they bombed in a few balls to him, and he won them, and got, I think he scored and got a free.
1 point anyway, I'm down for 1. But I particularly remember one ball, Brendan, and I think it was Matty Whittaker might have took a kind of a pot shot, and it would look like it was going wide.
Yeah.
Now it was a wet day, and he got 2 hands on it. He held it, recycled, and they got a point.
Yeah.
That game was so tight that every score was fiercely important.
Absolutely, and I suppose maybe what's his name, Tom Malloy was a bit quiet for 3/4 of that game, but he did burst into life in the last 15 minutes. and he was very lucky not to score a goal. The one that skimmed over the crossbar, like a goal in that game would have changed the you know, we say goals change games, but that certainly in the game on Saturday, being so tight, like a goal either side would have made a huge difference. But look, I think overall Tuberclare were probably, you know, they've, as Pat said, you know, they've shown throughout the championship, and likewise Shandona, you know, they have proven to be the best team in the competition, and you know they just about deserve their win on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We had, you know, we had definitely the two best teams in that intermediate grade. We had them in the final. Ray Sheridan did very well. Like it wouldn't have been an easy gig, Eddie. You go in there after coming back from relegation. I mean, it was what I think a playoff game, beaten by 1 point. I think it even controversial at the end of the year. But to regroup and try and get lads to row in behind you, knowing that you'd already been in intermediate, wouldn't have been an easy task now to do that.
No, it wouldn't be a job he'd be jumping up and down to take on, and he stayed at it. And like, I suppose their performance against Milltown probably, you know, it got them back to the tilt they were at there last year and the year before, right, competing at senior level. And it was probably this Tuberclare team are on the rise. They're on the rise. They've come through now from underage. They've won their underage titles. They're in the under 20 final. Like, they know how to win, and also have been beaten a few times, so they know the hurt of losing. And I think Ray, he called it right this year, whatever he did in the first game against Tuberclare, he set it up there on Sunday or Saturday, and I'm telling you, if they got one of those goal chances and they had two gilt-edged chances, it was game on. It was game over, possibly.
Yeah, possibly so. It was that tight
it's,
now.
you know, it's fair play to Ray for digging them out now and getting them going again.
Yeah.
I think Tuberclare are out on next Sunday in the club championship against Mullinavat in the Downs. So
Yes.
you know, a draw would have been a tough. You know, there would have been a replay this week under lights somewhere. So that would have been a big ask for them. So there, we wish them well in the club championship on Sunday against Mullinavat.
Yeah, Mullinavat, I think, are Kilkenny senior champions as far as I think they play at senior grade down there, and they're a decent side as well. But you'd fancy Tuberclare to have a little bit of run in Leinster. They seem to be equipped now. A lot of these teams going into Leinster depends on how you celebrate this weekend or whatever.
Yeah, would it be correct in saying they've been in a Leinster intermediate final before there 2-3 years ago? Would that be right?
Which
Tuberclare.
Right.
I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah,
so. I don't think so. Like, I think Gary Castle made it to a semi-final last year in the club championship, but I think Tuberclare are well equipped to go far. And I had a look at the draw there today in that intermediate club championship, and I think they have 2 home games. Like, and you know, the opposition I think could be, you know, might be favourable enough for them. You know, but like I think the big game for them will be next Sunday to get over that. Like, it's you know, that I think Mullinavat beat Shandona a couple of years ago in the club championship.
It's 2009 they got to the Leinster intermediate, so they have a bit of pedigree there.
Yeah,
and they have, and I go back and say what I liked about them is they have the forward line that's dangerous. They have a dangerous forward line and they can score. They've scored points when they needed to on Saturday, and that's going to be important. That's the key at that level.
Brendan, just on something there, and just thinking about it, you mentioned Tuberclare are going to have to go to the Downs on Saturday to play that game. What's the criteria to be able to host a championship game? Like Tuberclare, we know there's pitch down there and stuff like that. What's just
so the criteria that Leinster would have for the hosting of those games is a venue in the county which has hosted a county game. So the Downs in the past would have hosted Burn Cups and other county games. So that's the criteria that's used.
Okay.
And for the senior club, championship, the county ground must host the so for the likes of the Downs and Castletown Gagan, if it's a home game, they have to be hosted in Cusack Park.
Okay. Just on another.
And I suppose the Downs wouldn't be a familiar venue for Tuberclare. You know, I doubt they play too many of their championship games there. But look, I think they'll overcome that too.
Yeah, just wonder what the criteria was. Moving on from that on Saturday into Sunday morning, and unfortunately with weather conditions, and it's not great now at the minute either, but the minor football game had to be moved from Cusack Park And I think Pat, it was the right decision to take it out, especially with 2 big games on it Saturday, another one Sunday, another one again on Monday.
Yeah, look, it's not simple now for the management of the county board to look out and listen to the forecast and maybe listen to the rain. You know, you're heading for Halloween. You know, a lot of questions can be asked. How come there's so many competitions still unfinished so late in the year? Like, surely some of them could be started earlier. Like, I'm looking at the Junior 2 is still not played. You'd imagine Junior 1 and Junior 2 mightn't have really interfered with any county, you know, set up, hurling or football. It could have been started and maybe moved on. But anyway, look, they did make the right decisions, because the pitch does, at this time of the year, get a lot of traffic. It cuts up very easily, and then you have celebrations afterwards. And as Frank pointed out, he said it's the people that are standing walking with their shoes that are doing more damage than the cogs with the boots. So, and actually you can see his point, because I did look at it yesterday after the senior hurling, and I honestly don't know how some lads picked up the ball. You know, and the groundsman had done good work as regards. He didn't cut the grass, I'd say, in a while. He left it alone, which was naturally good for it. So, look, at Lomans is a fantastic venue outside, you know, the walls of the Cusick Park, and it's probably not overutilised. Some teams love it because there's huge space in it. There's great width in it. And like I'd say the same thing, Tubber Clare would be quite happy to go down to the Downs. There's a great width in that pitch also. And, you know, if you have young forwards who like moving the ball and, you know, quick ball in and movement, it'll suit them perfectly. You know, but Lomans is a great venue to have. So I know it was the right decision, obviously, because as the day turned out, it was horrendous yesterday. Or on Sunday.
We knew all about it. We were out in the elements. Eddie, you were obviously involved with Pádraig playing and the Mullingar Shamrock team. And I think there was 3 points in it in the end, but I think overall in the game, Mullingar were always that little bit better.
Yeah, as a non-neutral, you'd be looking at it, waiting for a sucker punch, and kind of Shamrocks left the Downs in the game at different times. Like, but I suppose it was. I was just thinking of what to say before, but the Shamrocks are nearly on the age. They're nearly all on the age. And it makes a big difference at that level. I was trying to come up. They probably have 8 years or 7 years ahead of the boys. Like, some of the Downs lads are under 17, where nearly all the Shamrocks lads were on the age. Like, and it makes a big difference at that age group. And young Orsby had an outstanding game, middle of the field. Young Maloney for the Downs is very good. Like, and I suppose it argues very well for Coláiste de Wirra for a run in the Leinster Colleges Championship, that you can put those 2 teams together with a few lads out Pat's way and a few lads from out Brendan's way that come in as well into that mix, and a few Shandona lads that will add. So Coláiste de Wirra are going to be very strong in this year's Leinster Championship.
Brendan, was an entertaining game, in fairness. I think Eddie probably summed it up right. Mullingar led it pretty much, you know, from tape to tape, but the Downs just were dogged and remained in it as long, you know, and in the end they had frees coming close to the end, or it could even have been closer at the very end.
Yeah, the Downs will rue a few bad wides they had in the second half. You know, they had 3 or 4 wides, and they weren't easy shots. Like, the conditions weren't favourable now for, you know, crosswind, and it was wet. And, you know, the player, you know, Mullingar built up a little bit of a lead and then sat back a little bit, and you know, the Downs came at them then, and they had chances to you know, score, but unfortunately their shooting boots weren't on, and you know, the weather did contribute to that. But I was hugely impressed with Hugo Caroon there for Mullingar Shamrocks. He wasn't. There was a doubt over his whether he would start, and he had a huge influence on the game. He was very lively, great movement from him, and you know, himself and Christopher Ormsby in the middle of the field. Christopher, some magnificent fetches there from kickouts and stuff, and he dominated. You know, he was he was in on goal a couple of times, and
maybe unlucky didn't get a goal.
He was very unlucky, very unlucky. You know, so like he was the dominant player across. You know, on the field, and you know, I thought both teams were extremely well coached. You know, they played a nice brand of football, and you know, Mullingar have been building there, and likewise the Downs. You know, so there's great futures ahead for these guys. You know, the pipeline is there.
Yeah.
Michael Maloney there for the Downs, and there's a young guy there, 15, Conor Cleary. He's only 16 years of age. He's a fine footballer, and I think he's a great future ahead of him too. So look, some of these guys now will have to regroup this week. They're playing in a minor hurling final, I think, this next weekend.
Yeah.
So they haven't much time to kind of sit back and enjoy it or lick their wounds. They have to get back on the horse again. So, I think there's a lot of them going to be playing again this weekend.
Yeah, I think Eddie would know more about that. Eddie, very impressed with normally we look at teams and you look at the diamond, 6, 8, 9 and 11. But I thought Ronan Byrne at 4 and Rory McCall at 7 were absolutely outstanding throughout that game as well.
Yeah, Ronan had a great season there. And again, a kind of a player, a lot of the Shamrocks lads have kind of been caught with that age group of under 17, that 2 years and a year under 17 and they were a year under 18, weren't getting really much game time, because Shamrocks were strong the year beforehand. And he's one player that's excelled. And Rory McCall has height and pace, and he just get himself built up now for the. He's minor again next year, so he's a good future now, and needs to put in the work obviously off the pitch. That's so important nowadays we see it in the senior, to develop on.
Yeah.
But he's all the attributes to make it as a really good club footballer, and after that it's his own how far he wants to go.
I just noted, Eddie, that Derek Sheridan was the coach there. He's a brother of Ray's.
Yeah.
And I think another brother was involved with an Armagh team in the final at the weekend. So the Sheridans were busy men at the weekend.
They're all over the country.
They were, and I think actually, I think that team he was involved in, Armagh, were beaten, I think, in the final.
Yeah.
I think so. But look, and still, getting out there, getting plenty of experience involved with teams as well. But the Downs, as Eddie said, they're probably a little bit younger, maybe a year behind, certainly one behind them anyway. They'll be a force next year. Young Pádraig Monaghan is a good prospect as well. And I thought Michael Maloney, there was one piece of skill in the first half, Brendan, I don't know whether you remember, and I think I might have got the call wrong on who it was with the wind bait in the face office, but he flicked the ball around a couple of players, jinked around him, put it into his hand, and he went on the attack. It was nearly worth the admission fee alone in the conditions that were in it.
Yeah, and look, at the Downs are, they've had a really good year at underage. They've won the under 14 and the under 16. So, I know they can't, getting to 3 underage finals is and a senior final, it's some achievement for one club. And, it's a credit to the club that the work they're doing with their underage, that they have teams competing in finals,
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it just proves the work is going in and at the underage levels as well. Now, moving on from that, just I suppose we give the MJ Stones and Building and Development in New York a mention on the sponsors of that one as well. So they sponsor all the underage. So the boys had a good weekend. They would have been watching that one, and then of course involved with Castown in the senior hurling as well. Going on to the senior football final. The Downs, I suppose everyone's favourites leading into the whole as the championship moved on. Coruscant Kinnegad, maybe came in, I won't say under the radar, but at one stage it looked like they were going out with in the group stages, and then won the game, got a little bit of momentum, got into it, and they made a fair game out of it. 4-12 to the Downs, 1-15 to Coruscant Kinnegad, but those 4 goals were the difference in it in the end.
Yeah, look, as you alluded to, great credit goes to Kinnegad, because if you were following the competition in the early days, I think they lost the first 3 rounds. And to come back from that and set your stall out and dig, every game then was a knockout. And maybe that's what suits them, but they put their shoulder to the wheel and they worked their way through it, and they got to the final and they acquitted themselves very, very well. Everybody's favourite was the Downs, because they had been playing the most attractive football. I suppose they were carrying the pain of last year, which we did say they could be the defending champions on any other day. Like, to lose a replay in extra time and penalties it's just mind-boggling stuff. But that's what happened to them. But they have a really talented outfit. But the day itself was atrocious for any lad to go out and play. The pinnacle of your career is a county final, and realistically they had trained, and it was probably one of the better summers we had in a long, long time. And, to come out then and play in conditions that you were totally unaccustomed to, and great credit to everybody involved, so it seemed to be getting away from Kinnegad at times, but they kept hanging in there, and they got lifelines, and they worked their way back into it. And the Downs just couldn't put them away. You know, as the old saying goes, you know, they were always hanging on their coattails, but concede 4 goals in a senior final in football especially, it takes an awful lot to come back, even with the 2-pointers.
Yeah. And Brendan, they did give it a fair rattle. Darren Giles, I had him down. I think he kicked 3 2-pointers at crucial stages. He put in a huge shift for his side as well.
Darren had a great game. You know, he really led the charge for Kinnegad. You know, they got it back, I think, to 3 points. But it seemed every time they came back at the Downs were able to go up the field and score a goal. And you know, the Downs, I think, you know, they scored 4 goals, but I think they created 6 or 7. And
Good
you
chances,
know, they had those chances. And you know, a feature of the game on Sunday was the middle third, like, and especially on the Kinnegad kick outs, the Downs really targeted and pushed up on that kick out. And one of the goals, I think the second goal, came from a poor kick out, and you know, they were pressing all the time, the Downs. I thought the Downs won that battle in the middle third. Like Johnny Lynham and Billy Moffat had great games there in the middle, and you know, Luke was buzzing around there. You know, he was well marked. He was well marked by Owen O'Brien, and he did a great job of him. But you know, Luke being Luke, he you know, he'll keep him quiet for a while, but he'll pop up. You know, he got one really good point just before half time. You know, that really, you know, sent a message that, you know, we're going to keep the foot on the pedal here, and they did. And they just seemed to pop up the goals at the right time.
Yeah, and I think the proof of that, Eddie, was the goal, I think it was, that Johnny Lynham scored in the end, where Luke came in and decided, and someone said that a couple of years ago, a less composed Luke would have probably fisted the ball over the bar, but great vision, just of, you know, as 3 or 4 defenders. He has that effect of when you see him on the move, you have to try and close him down. They went to him, and Johnny Lynham drifting in through the centre, then Lefty just stuck it in the bottom corner. But Luke did cause lots of problem. But like again, Owen O'Brien kept him to 1 point from play, which was a fair achievement.
Yeah, like you need to keep Luke out at that left half forward, left side of the field, because if he's on the right side of the field, he's going to jink. He's going to go onto that left foot. Like, I just thought, like, I was looking for a stat from Conor McKenna, and Conor McKenna gave me a stat yesterday. He says Downs won in total winning margins was 73 points. So they've 73 points plus in all their games. Now that's what they won the matches by in the end, their total. And like, it's like when you think about it, they really won the championship well this year. You know, really,
Yeah,
like they were the best team by far. And I was watching Jack. I was in school with Jack, and I'd be good friends with him. Like, and I seen him. The Kinnegad really started well against the Breeze. They were up a couple of points, and just that goal.
Yeah,
That's that guy. I seen Jack's head go. I seen his hands go to his head like that, you know. And I said, they did not need that to happen, because once Kinnegad started chasing that game, they were going to leave chances for the Downs. And no more than Shamrocks in the semi-finals, Shamrocks held them for the first half, very defensive. There was only a point or two in it at half. But once Shamrocks had to go and win the game, they left gaps. And the Downs with O'Sullivan, with Martin, I'm very impressed with the two of them all season. And they start running through the middle at you, and then they're flicking out to Luke Loughlin, and like, he's on the Talton team of the year. Like, he's in the top footballers in the country. You know, that's how high he's at the minute. And you're trying to mark him, but you're also trying to mark Martin. You're trying to mark Sullivan. And there's a lad I met 2 years ago. I was in Frains one Saturday, and the Downs were playing on Tom Chute, and I always thought he was a good footballer, lovely sidestep. His uncle Jimmy and his uncle Eddie had great sidesteps. And I said, why are you not tugging out for the Downs today? Oh, I know things, whatever, he wasn't getting his game. And like, he's added to them again this year, something different in that left corner forward spot. And so the Downs are a quality team. 73 points is what they've won their games by. It's a lot, and they're going to give this. They're going to have something to say in this Leinster Club Championship.
Yeah, like that's, I think, was it 7 games, so you're averaging 10-point wins. So look, that's as close as they've been pushed now by Kinnegad, 6 points in the end. But when Jack looks back on it, lads, I'd say he will be disappointed with some of the goals they conceded. It was Ian Martin's goal just came off a deflection off Josh Gahan's foot, and it just broke kindly. That, you know, they'll be disappointed, but I think at the same time, those lads in Kinnegad have to take huge confidence in the year and how it finished for them anyway.
You know, we were writing off Kinnegad here back, you know, in August, like they'd won no games, and you know, they knuckled down, and they dug out the result against Athlone in the last game of the group, and they got into a quarter final. And they built a bit of momentum then, and they were deservedly in the final. They had earned the right to be in the final, and they're and I think Jack would have got everything out of that team this year.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. The Downs are a little bit, have more quality in their team, and they really played as at Eddie. That stat from when they won the championship every game so well. I think that maybe in the group game, group game against Mullingar, they might have been a bit off colour that day, but still, they never looked in trouble in any game I saw this year, and they're deserving champions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the spread of scores even from them as well, from Jonathan Lynham in the middle of the field and 5 of their 6 starting forwards all scoring. But a man that really stood up, and I think he came of age in the county final and sometimes can throw up unlikely heroes, I thought was number 14, Dean Egerton. A goal and 3 points he finished the game with.
Yeah, and he did great. The first game against Mullingar Shamrocks, he kicked some 2-pointers and looked, and then he hadn't as good a game the next time he played. And maybe you were thinking as a manager that you'd let him have a shot. Once Lachlan wasn't getting the ball, you'd say we'll let him have a shot. But you think 1-3 Ray even down for 1-3, and he's a find. And I suppose you don't want to. We're all behind the Downs now as to go into the Leinster club campaign. You don't want to get them too far there, but they remind me a little bit of St. Lomans around the 2017, 2018 time, at 2016, when they were really a lot of lads on the right age, hungry to get to the next level, and they've got loads of attributes. And I be they play Tullamore, who I know quite well as well, and they've won 3 in a row in Offaly. It's going to be a ding dong battle, but. They have players and they have a bench as well. I suppose they'll be annoyed that I don't know how fit Niall Mitchell was. Pat might know more than me on that one, how fit Niall Mitchell was for Sunday. Was he fit to play? But you could do with him in a few of the later games for something different.
He has a knee injury and it could be serious enough now.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd be surprised if he features.
Yeah.
According to the boys anyway, that he was.
Yeah, and they've also replaced another great hurler, Dara Egerton.
Well, Dara is a serious loss because.
I believe Dara is very close to being back now. He has that operation over a year ago now, so he was there on Sunday and he was in. He's on the sideline. I think he's close to being back. He had targeted Christmas, but being in the club championship now, it might.
I know, but
he
he will be conscious. He came back that bit early last year and he did damage, and he just doesn't. He needs to be fit when he comes back the next time.
These injuries they take time. You hear about the Tommy Quays or whatever coming back so quick. They don't materialise for the ordinary guy because there's specialised experts with some of these top players and professionals and semi-professionals. Like the ordinary club player, it's time is needed. And even when a lad comes back after it, he's not the same player. It takes him nearly another 12 months to get back to where he was. Confidence is a huge thing. And that little thing, I'd be a little bit worried about, Ginny, will I go for that? Or especially now when the ground's got so sticky.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that they will worry about is their foot staying and their knee twisting, especially after getting it. I would be very surprised if Dara did come back, because out of that also, he's nothing done. It'd be very hard for management to say, well, we have Dara back. But you're only relying on what he was 12 months ago.
Yeah, but they have strength and depth though, Brendan. Like Andrew Kilmartin has been, plagued by injuries the end of the year. I mean, he was a county panelist as well this year. And they had the luxury then of being able to take Joey Moran off at half time. Joey had the hamstring heavily strapped, but to bring in a player of Conor Coughlin's quality then, it certainly wasn't weakening the team by any manner of means.
Conor Coughlin will be a starter in any other team.
Yeah.
He's that good, and he's proved that in the championship this year. So you need at this time of the year you need that depth in a panel, and the Downs have that depth in the panel that they can really make an impact now in the club championship. I believe that game is on Sunday the 16th of November, and it's a home game. It'll be in Cusack Park. And
it's a quarter final that game.
So I mean, the Downs are well capable of making a big impact in the club championship. They have the quality, and they have the right their management and their support structures there are excellent. You know, so they have they'll do well in this club championship.
It'll be a great day out, because you imagine Offaly and Westmeath, like Tullamore and Mullingar,
Yeah.
they're running side by side. They'll bring a huge. If it's a dry day at all, they'll bring a huge crowd.
Yeah, but I think
You know.
dry or wet, there's going to be a big
Ah, yeah,
crowd
well,
in for that.
imagine
Anyway.
if it happened to be a nice crispy autumn day, like
Yeah,
you'd have the armchair viewers would come, you know, or they mightn't come on the wet day, but it brings it out. But, like Tullamore winning 3 in a row, like is a good achievement in Offaly, like, you know, and they're up again this year, but they came through. But it's a great opportunity, you know, especially if it's a quarter final, you're missing
Yeah, it's
a
good.
round. And you're getting an opportunity to get to a semi-final, and your semi-finals, the Downs have been there. They know what's
Yeah,
in
they're
front of them.
beating the Leinster final the last time they won the championship, isn't that right?
Yeah,
That's right.
You know, and
under lights.
yeah, and I think there's a chance. And I've seen the draw. I can't remember. But I don't think they hit any. Brendan, you might remember the draw, but I think there's favourable enough to the group if you can get through a quarter.
I think, you know, I don't want to put the hex on them, but I think if they were able to beat Tullamore, they played the winners of Ballyboden and Wexford at home. So I mean, I don't think, you know, I know Dermot Power and the lads there, they won't be getting carried away here. They'll only be looking at the next game, you know, and you know they'll approach it in a professional manner. They won't be thinking too far ahead. You know, they'll try and get their bodies right after. Like, that was a tough game on Sunday. Like, there'll be a lot of sore bodies after that. Like,
It wouldn't be like a few of us. They'll be back training tonight. You know,
You reckon?
I'd say so.
I think so, yeah. But look, I know all jokes, but they're a huge, powerful team as well. I think, you know, when you see lads up close, like, they're probably a little bit ahead of Kinnegad in their development as well, and you know, the strength and conditioning and stuff like that. And we said it during the year, Brendan, that they have benefited by adding lads going in on the county panel. They certainly seem to have, and I look particularly at Kevin O'Sullivan. He got man of the match on Sunday. I thought he put in a massive shift for the team.
yeah, I mean, Kevin has been a county panellist for a couple of years, and you're dead right. Like, you know, being on the county setup, like, it brings you on as a footballer, both physically and tactically. And the Downs have benefited from that. Like, the likes of, you have Charlie Drum there, and Johnny Lynham, and Kevin O'Sullivan, Luke Loughlin. Like, they have all started games, not even been they've started games for Westmeath. So I mean, that's a huge asset to have. And Joe Moran, another one, had a fine year for Westmeath this year. He was carrying a bit of a knock on Sunday, like, so they'll be hoping to get him back to full fitness now for the 16th of November.
Yeah, and I think now the Kinnegad lads as well, you know, they've had a good year. And I think a particular shout out for their full back this year, Danny Woods. I thought he had an excellent year. Got forward last Sunday, kicked a good point as well. And he's as honest as the day is long. And you know, and they've good lads. I thought David Giles absolutely outstanding. Geraldine, like, looking at their scores over the whole game, I think they kicked 5 2-pointers. That's a huge return in a game, like, you know. Now, if you look at it that way, in old scores, it's only 5 points, whereas it was 10, you know, with the 2-pointers. So maybe that was just lacked a little bit of power up front in the end.
I think I said on the last time I was in that, like, Darren Giles, if it was football back in the 90s and the noughties, he'd be full forward for Westmeath if he'd been injury free, like, because he's as good a left foot as I've seen, like, since I mentioned that at the last day. And he'd age, I don't know, he had 3 2-pointers, really.
3,
correct?
yeah.
And like, if he was years ago, you could have probably put him on the edge of the square and you win your county championship. But the way the football has gone, and it's harder to do, but like, he was outstanding, and he's missed a couple of seasons. But going back to your point about county players, you need county players, and a few of them, to win county championships. You need them. You need nearly one a line. You need, and I would say you need a minimum of four, and if you had 6, all the better. Like,
Yeah, and we've seen that with Lomans down through the years as well.
county players will win you games. You know, and go back to Tubber Clare, they have a few underage county players that would probably be brought into the panel, and they need to go into the panel, and they need to get into that county setup. And I suppose Kinnegad, going back to that, if they were in that county setup, some more of them, it would benefit that Kinnegad squad. You know.
Yeah, and then, look, they've loads of young talent. I've been very impressed. I know Brendan as well, with Josh Gahan and how he's performed. I thought Owen O'Brien, you know, he kept Luke as quiet as anyone has kept Luke in a long time. Couldn't keep him on the shackle the whole time, but he put in a great shift as well.
Owen is a top footballer, and he's been consistently good for the last 2 or 3 years. In my mind, he's one of the best defenders in the county. He does that man marking job so well, and he gets forward as well. And Josh Gahan the same, another top footballer, and those two guys can hold their heads high. They did very well.
Young Daly lad that's out injured there at the minute.
Yeah.
His brother hurls for a Harney. He was playing well last year as well. I'm not sure it's Liam Daly, but there's definitely a Daly.
Yeah, Liam.
He's a hardy buckle, and he's been injured all season. Again, you can't afford to lose these players.
No. But look, it's all credit to the Downs, and it's 1 to 15. They were excellent throws, starting with Trevor Martin. Their two cornerbacks, quietly effective the whole time. Ian Burke and Peter Murray, kept that. And looking at my stats, I think the full forward line for Kinnegad didn't score at all. So that tells you the job that they did. Another great player for the Downs. He pulled an awful lot of strings is Kieran Nolan.
Yeah, and Charlie Drum, I don't think you'll see Charlie Drum leaving that full back line too often. Where before he would have attacked or played I think they're leaving him sitting there with that bit of pace he has and that height and that presence. And when you've got a full back like that beside you, can go for everything, as hard as you want, because you have the luxury of him sitting back for you. And he's definitely sitting more back as a nearly an old school full back in the way I'm looking at it.
Well, look at the Downs. They have the Paddy Flanagan Cup out there. They're happy with it, as we say, and we hope that they're not finished for the year yet. That they'll give us maybe a couple of more good Sundays before the year is out as well. That'll progress through Leinster. And as the lads said, they're well capable of doing it. Again, Shea Murta Precast Senior Champions for 2025. The Black and Ambers. So congratulations to the Downs, congratulations to Mullingar Shamrock and Tuberclare for winning the intermediate. So we'll park the football, lads, and we're going to go back. Eddie, you won't like me to say this, but we'll go back to last Tuesday night in St. Lomans, where the Senior B hurling final was played. Another cracking match, Pat. Went to extra time, and Oliver Plunkett just seemed to run out of legs in the extra time.
Yeah, well, I suppose first of all, we just want to say what a spectacle it was. It was I suppose a cool, crisp winter's evening or autumn evening, but it was a well manicured venue with a fantastic crowd.
Absolutely.
And as I said it during the commentary, Delvin brought everything with them, including the passion in the fans, the crowd. Like every ball was cheered. Mullingar, to their credit, done it likewise, but Delvin outnumbered them. The support for Delvin was unreal. But on the game itself, it was a cracker. Two teams went where they left off only 4 days before at hell for leather, and they got stuck into it. And I suppose Delvin maybe learnt a little bit more from the fact that they closed up shop as regards they didn't concede the early goals.
Yeah.
And that was what I suppose was possibly their downfall in maybe not getting over the line the first day, because it left them a mountain to climb, as we had stated. But they got a dream start where they got a goal themselves, which was a great foundation, And like that man, Packy Clune, at full forward, he's the most I suppose you wouldn't expect him to be scoring goals. But I looked at it again on the tape, and the ball was delivered in well. He controlled it, he rounded it. He didn't just make any kind of a wild, and he placed it perfectly in the low bottom corner, where I reckon this goalkeeper, Conor Bracken, is a really good goalie, really top class goalkeeper. He had no chance of getting down low into it.
Yeah.
And look, it was a good start for them, and they built on it, but they were more energetic. The different players, I remember the first day Josh Call was outstanding for Delvin when they were struggling elsewhere. He was a little bit quieter today, but other guys stood up. Darren got more into it from early on. He got a great point over on the far side under the Delvin crowd on his left hand side early, and that got him going, and it got them in behind him and rode in behind him, and they kept Killian at home. Obviously, we partly guessed whatever excuses was to be for the Arabs, but he stayed at home anyway.
Alan Cox, you mean?
Or Alan Cox,
yeah.
So he was a huge plus for them also. But as a spectacle, as a game, it was terrific entertainment.
Yeah, final scoreline 125 to Delvin, 23 points. So St. Oliver Plunkett after extra time. I think it was 117 to 20 at the end of 60 minutes. Delvin, Brendan, probably overall fitness in the very end of it just brought them through. But, as Pat said, different lads stood up this time, and the Newman had a goal in two. The last it didn't score this time, but Darrell Clinton 5 from play, and then the main score, most of them coming from frees. Dean Ennis, I think 15 points he's got, which in any man's language is a fair return for 80 minutes of hurling.
Yeah, and credit has to go to both of these teams. Like, they had played the previous Saturday, and this was a high octane game. It was played at pace, and there was extra time, and there was drama all the way through this. Delvin had a good start, and looked like a team that was going to surge on, but Oliver Plunkett's kept at it and plugging away, and I think it was a draw at half time, if memory serves me right.
Yeah, 1-9-12.
Yeah, and like in the second half, then it was tit for tat all the way through, and both teams had chances to win it in normal time, and like Shane Iarmhi had a fine game throughout, and he missed a chance, a gilt-edged chance there to win it, and it seemed then in the second half, and in whatever. Barry Kennedy and what's his name? Seamus said to the Delvin lads at the end of the game, they seemed to get new energy, and there was only one team in it in extra time. And as I rightly recall, maybe St. Oliver Broncos only had one scorer in the extra time, which was the goalie.
Yeah.
And like Conor Bracken had a fine game. Like I think he scored 5 or 6 points on long range frees. And
I have known for 7. Brendan, now just looking at him.
He's striking at the long range frees is immaculate. Like he's as good a get out of jail card as you'll ever have, because he done it in the drawn match. An exceptional score.
Yeah.
But his puck outs, he was secure under the high ball, and like it wasn't easy. Now these guys hadn't played any game under lights, possibly any time, not alone a county final. But it was terrific, I suppose, that way. The legs probably went for Mullingar towards the end. They're a more physical, strong, big team, and I suppose down the home stretch when it really went push for shove, they just did tire that little bit. Now, Killian Murphy had a huge opportunity to go and put the game nearly stone dead. He was 1-on-1 completely with the goalkeeper, but he took the wrong option and it was snuffed out.
Credit the keeper there as well. He did very well.
Perfect.
Eddie, disappointment for Plunkett's.
Yeah, disappointment for Plunkett's. Overall, like the start of the season, our main aim was to consolidate ourselves at Senior B. That was the main focus of the season, to make sure that we were in Senior B. And then after that, like, it was a bonus. Everything else was a bonus. We started to get things going, and we were getting on well, and we were winning our games. And we ended up in the final. I suppose the first day, I'd say the goals flattered us a little bit. Like, maybe one or two of them were against a run of play, and still, when Delvin got a run on us the first day, they nearly went and won the game fairly handy. And Dermot moved Aaron Craig up full forward and kind of dragged the Delvin boys back up the field, and we latched on a few points. And then down the pitch in the St. Loman's pitch, it was a fast pitch, and the Delvin's touch was better in that last 20 when they had the quality, or like Darrell Clinton. We all know how good he is at inter-county level. When he swings that over his shoulder, it's going over the bar, and their hurling got the better of us, I would say, at the end of it. Like, and we were, as Pat says, we were reliant on Conor Bracken at times to keep us in the game. Like,
yeah, and Eddie, just looking at the stats there that I have from the game, he got 7 and David Gavin got 9.
Yeah.
So you had 16 of your 23 points coming from place ball.
Yeah.
Now I know, that doesn't always tell the full story, but your lack of scoring power in the end was the difference in it. Like, where Delvin got, I think, only 12 of their points were from frees.
And we needed goals. We would be, we would have needed goals. No more in the first game, the goals kept us in. They actually got us ahead. I think we were 8 points ahead at one stage, and they kept at us. And they came back to 2 points. So we hadn't scored. Like, you can do the stats on that, whatever you want.
4 ahead, but when they were 4 ahead, we remarked, and we said it in the podcast, that they kind of lost their shape, especially when they saw Aaron going back up there, and they completely lost their shape. They should have actually closed out the game at that stage.
And they could have.
But the pitch was perfect for Delvin, because they had that youth. They could move it around. And like, I did go down to the pitch afterward just to see a few lads, and Darragh obviously must listen to something we're saying. He says, the first thing he says, I did move my feet tonight, you know. And if you do
So
look
you're
at,
the reason, Pat.
well, I don't know. Look,
Another reason.
the bottom line was it was easy to see what he was doing and doing wrong.
Yeah.
But he rectified it himself. And if you notice the scores he actually got a lot of them on the run.
Yeah.
He moved with the ball and he let his hurling flow. And if he flows, there's no better man.
Yeah.
He has that ability
Lovely
to do
touch.
it. Oh,
Lovely touch.
he's that beautiful strike on the left hand side. You know, that
Yeah,
it's just flow, it's poetry if he let flow, but he has this tendency to win a ball, stand and twick and turn. You know, the top players don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, but he
And
obviously
a
learned
top
from.
defender will block
Oh,
that.
sure, he's there. They'll know, they'll read you.
Yeah.
You know.
Like 5 from play he got, Josh Call only coming in 1 point, but two points from Alan Cox, 2 points from Ross Gaffney. Gaffney went to the middle of the field and he was good. He's a young lad coming through there and did well for them. And they just were that little bit stronger in the end as it turned out.
But the work rate from Patrick Clune was incredible. Like, he'd come soldiering out to a ball, maybe second, and if the opposition player wasn't immaculate with his touch, he's in on top of you. And he knows how to just little flicks and little touches and whatever,
Hassling and
Yeah,
harrowing.
he's just, for his age, he's great. He must be great to help the younger lads, because he's encouraging them and telling them, and and he knows himself that if he does get it, he'll just lay it off. Yeah. He won't try the impossible or the silly stuff. He'll just leave it off to somebody. And that's the great asset in a club.
Look, I was involved out there for a year, and like everyone knows him as Pikey. They don't, he's not Patrick, but I think only to the family. But everyone lads, he's Pikey, and look, he's a dream, and every club would be delighted to have the likes of him. Marnie has the legs cut off, he's going to turn out like legs strapped up, and it didn't make a bit of difference to Pikey. He was going to turn out, and look at. I was delighted for him to see him. He got the goal. It was a crucial one. He actually had a chance
Absolutely,
to save us an extra 20 minutes on top of the he could have saved
He
us.
had a fantastic, and he struck it well, and struck the distance, but it just tailed.
Yeah, he was.
It was actually, that's true. He had the opportunity to go forward, but
in Delvin, the reason Brendan alluded to with regards to Tubber Clare, if there was a draw, but the reason for that was Delvin were out in the Leinster Championship on Saturday, and they acquitted themselves well without, I think, 4 of their main players.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it was a big ask really now for them to, all the energy went into that game on Tuesday night, and I think Alan Cox and I think maybe Dean Ennis and maybe Adam weren't available. Like very difficult, to rise it up after such a heroic win on Tuesday night, to get the heads right for Saturday, and then having the 3 lads or 4 lads missing as well. But like I wasn't at the game myself, but it was tight enough. I think there was only 4 in the end. And they're Delvin will be very proud of their achievement this year. Like they've been beaten in 3 finals, they were in 2 finals, beaten the previous 2 finals. So they've made that jump now. They're going up to Senior A next year, so that'll give them a great boost. And if they can keep that style of play that they had this year, they'll trouble anyone. There's some fine hurlers in that team.
Yeah, and like they know Josh Call, and even they lost Alan Cox, Adam Ennis, who had an ankle injury in the final. Josh Call wasn't there, and Dean Ennis, and I think even one of them might have been enough to make the 4-point difference.
It was a huge, and Alan Cox went back to play the next day, and I think that you were saying they lost a lot of their energy, and that Tuesday night I think they lost a lot more energy above in the board head on Thursday as well. But
we would have sent them back to Dubai now on the Sunday evening if he wanted to go.
But it just goes to show, the heart and spirit that was in it, and I'm sure there was a lot of lads gasping for air on Saturday as well. But anyway, look at they're at the start of the year, their target was to get to Cusack Park and win that trophy. And I'd say they had no idea what was in front of them in Leinster. So I suppose they just played it. They had no choice because it was so close on top of it. That's unfortunate the way it worked out.
But look,
however,
congratulations to them anyway, Seamus and Barry Kennedy, the 2 main men out there. And as Pat said, spoke to Seamus there during the week after the game, and that was their aim, was to try and win that senior B. And
but as a spectacle rate, it was very, very good for entertainment wise, and it was I mean, you've seen it afterwards. The Delvin, whether they didn't know or just were so excited, they must have stayed in the middle of the field for 15 to 20 minutes, and the trophy was below at the complex, and until they turned off the lights, they never moved. You know, so they just, I suppose, they were so relieved, possibly.
And just for
and
my own crew, like Dermot and Johnny Dooley and the lads, they only took it on like mid-season, like,
Yeah,
you know what I
that's
mean?
true.
Like, so
Yeah.
they stepped in there. I'm not sure whether it was maybe May, June time, like, you know, and Davy and Mark Fitzgerald and the boys got involved, and so look, as I said to you, we've no fair play to Delvin.
Yeah, no, you're
We'll hopefully bounce back.
Yeah, well, the Plunkets will, because they have, you know, they won the under-20 last year. They're in the minor finals, you know yourself, Eddie, this year, and they have an abundance of, you know, fine, talented, you know, big, strong lads. It's just, the thing is to keep them hurling. There's so many things goes on in the town, you know. You have rugby, and you have shamrocks, and you have a lot of different outlets and that, you know. It's hurling is always difficult to keep. You know, you can't just drop it and come back in 6 months. You need to be at it all the time.
Yeah,
you know,
and
so
it is
not
difficult.
easy.
It is difficult
You know,
for them.
so as someone, I had been talking to someone early in the year, and they said maybe this year mightn't be the year for us to go up. So the experience of being there and 2 finals in this year, and hopefully then bring in some of these younger lads next year, will push them on. You know, so that's where they are. So there's another year to fight.
Yeah, Delvin champions of Slevins coaches senior B finals. So well done to the lads out there. The last game of the weekend, replay of our senior hurling final again, sponsored by Slevins coaches. We were dodgy, Brendan, looking at the pitch on Sunday evening after the football game. How would it cope and how would it be? But we still were, you know, treated to a cracking hurling game. Huge endeavour from both sides. No scarcity of skill from both sides as well. But I think Castletown showed their class in the end.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was the first half yesterday was it took up actually where it left off the last day. The intensity in that first half was incredible, you know, and the two teams really went at it. There was no, you know, there was a bit of tactical switching going on at the start. Both teams set up with a sweeper, Jack Murphy for Castletown and Shane Williams for Loughlin Gales. But you know, Castletown Gagan, you know, set their stall out, and that early goal from Shane Clavin, you know, they got them on the front foot, and really they never really looked back. You know, throughout the game, the Gales did threaten at times to close that gap, but they were kept at arm's length by Castletown, and you have to give great credit to the, you know, Castletown showed their quality and how they used the ball, even in difficult conditions yesterday. They moved the ball so well through the lines. I felt that Loughlin Gales were maybe going route one all the time, but great credit. And I know sometimes forwards always get the credit, but I have to really acknowledge how good Castletown's defence yesterday was. Jack Murphy and Peter Murphy was outstanding there, and all the backs for Castletown were brilliant. The ball was raining down there at times in the second half, and they just dealt with everything. And you know, they kept playing their style, and you know, they got they kept at it, and you know, the introduction of Jack Gallagher was a significant in the game. He contributed. He scored. I think he set up David O'Reilly for the goal, and he scored 2 points himself. But his industry and his hurling ability showed. Like a fella behind me said to me, "Oh, he won't live with this physicality," but he showed his hurling shone through, and he even tracked back the half back line and won ball. And you know, it's bitterly disappointing for Loughlin Gales, but you know, they really didn't. You know, they only had 4 scorers overall, and really to win a county final you need more than that. I think all of the forwards for Castletown scored, and we said last week or the week before on the podcast that the half forward line for Castletown would have to improve significantly, and they did. They really did. Liam Varley won one, Peter Clark 3 points, Angus Clark a point and a free. But those guys like Peter Clark had a super first 20 minutes. He was everywhere, and he ran at that Loughlin Gales defence, and on one occasion he should have kept going and scored the goal himself, and he offloaded, and he should have scored himself. But I think Castletown, their hurling ability shone through, and their quality, and they didn't panic. They kept playing their style and working the ball through the lines, and they were full value for their win.
Absolutely, and the conditions weren't really conducive to doing that type of hurling, but they were excellent. And I think Brendan alluded to it there. I think he probably summarised the whole lot there in that. But 3 other scorers along with David Williams is not going to win a county. It's not going to win a title for you.
I'll let Pat come in a minute, but I think there was 3 things not going to happen on Sunday. Peter Clark wasn't going to start full forward. Angus wasn't going to be as quiet. And Jogger was not going to be isolated on his own. But in fairness to 2 teams, I'd go to Cusack Park every day of the week to see them playing, because the weather conditions were terrible. The Gales, they dived at everything, they flew into every tackle, they made it as hard. We all know that Castletown are probably on hurling terms of the panel, but the Gales gave it everything. And even though they got that early goal, the Gales were back in it at 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then it just slipped off the radar. And Castletown had that extra class, but I go back, like Peter Clark, when he's midfield, he's hard-handled at county level, never mind club level at midfield. He was in his position. Angus was fine. Vardy was starting to win the ball. He wins and get his scores. Liam Vardy, Pat would know better. I think you can play him full back, you can play him centre back, you can play him midfield, you can play him centre forward, you can play him full forward. And Castletown play him at 10 or 12, you know what I mean? And as going back, I wouldn't for hurling on the weather. It wasn't a free takers day. It was a day for really heart and soul, and the Gales gave it everything, and they'll be so disappointed. But the little bit of class that Castletown had, Jack Gallagher could come on and make a difference. The Gales hadn't got that person to come on and make a difference, and really it came down to if Jogger didn't win a full forward, they were struggling to get their scores.
Yeah, and they only got him. He really only got one ball in there in that
early doors,
and they dragged him down. He got the penalty, but that was it. But I thought Pat and Brendan said it. Jack Murphy was outstanding with the amount of ball. Showed all his experience in the conditions. His handling was immaculate. He batted balls away, kept it away from the danger, and then lads hoovering it up around him. Then hunger. I thought very much on the side of Castletown yesterday.
Yeah, well, a day like yesterday was always going to be a defender's day. It was extremely difficult for forwards. They had to do what we're telling Darragh Clinton to do. You had to move to get your strike, and then a slippery ball, the greasy hands, everything. And you're better off if there was a heavy shower of rain and it didn't clear it off. But all day, this hour blown, misty, dirty in your face. So the defence for Castletown was outstanding yesterday as a unit. They backed one another up. They played the ball out through the lines. Like they were playing summer hurling in wet conditions. But they knew what they were doing. Yeah. They were able to find that man all the time. Now, there was times, I suppose, an odd one to go astray or they'd walk into tackles. But as a contest for 2 teams, I tell you something, the Premier League in England could turn on this match and look at it and say, why is our top class players in England who are paid so much lying down for tips and taps, lads howling their ear from a lad jumping up to... There was hits yesterday that if they were on the side of the road, you'd be arrested for it. But lads got on with it. They just played away. It was part and parcel of the day that was in it, the occasion that was in it. Commitment-wise, energy, passion, every player on both teams gave absolutely his every last drop. It might, for the neutral and even for the people from Castletown and Loughlin Gales, it was tremendous excitement. It probably didn't look as good on the video afterwards when you look at it, because there seems to be a good few Shamazels, Rooks, rooting as you want to call it. But they all came out with the ball. Somebody came out with it, and that's endeavour. There was some savage hits. Some got away, some were unnoticed. Some, Barry had his hands full all day. I think Castletown probably were aggrieved maybe at times because it's hard to find frees, and at the finish Collinstown were aggrieved because Castletown were getting them. You know, I think it was 15 minutes 24 seconds before Castletown got the first free on the pitch, anywhere. You know, from a week before where they had scored 13 frees. You know, but at the finish they got probably some that Collinstown were probably a bit annoyed about. But for free takers, the two lads that were hitting the frees, it was an extremely difficult job. And people will say, how did he miss that, or how did he not hit that?
Yeah.
It is not simple when you're in dim conditions, because first and foremost, they haven't played in dim conditions all year. As we stated earlier, the summer was good, the ball was dry, your hurley was dry, your hands were dry. You know, if you notice the two hurlers, we always look for a 9 out of 10 in the free taker. Both of them are that on their day. Unfortunately, it didn't just happen for David.
Yeah.
You know, some of them got away that he would normally just get. You know, even Derek came up and hit one that he would have been hitting them for the last 15 years, and it got away. But if you noticed what Niall O'Brien done, he took every second that he was allowed over the ball. He waited until he was comfortable in doing what he wanted to do. He had visualised what he wanted to do, how to hit it, and he got them. And that's probably a little bit more experience than David had, you know. And it came down to a few things like that. But even in fairness to yourself and Brendan on the co-commentary, Brendan alluded to it, and he would know, he would know that how difficult it was for free takers.
Yeah,
you know, just to get the ball, get the ball to come off your hurley.
Yeah,
properly.
He described it, for anyone that didn't hear the commentary, that the ball just skidded off your hurl. It doesn't come with a crisp, clean strike on it.
Yeah.
It's so difficult because David Williams had a couple of wides, maybe 10 minutes into the second half. That, you know, you'd be marking it down yourself before you even talk it. Derek missed one then. And those three misses were crucial at the particular time because Castletown moved forward and I think they ended up getting the third goal then. You know, and you had sort of a 6 point.
I don't think they were losing the game. I think there was more to it than that. Like, you know,
but you know, when you hit a wide from a free,
it knocks the heart.
And it sucks it out of the energy out of the crowd as well. Like, you know.
Well, there was a 3-point gap there at one stage, and I think they missed three. Loughlin Gales missed 3 frees in a row. And that does deflate the team. There's no question about that. But a significant... I thought David O'Reilly yesterday, even though he made them in as prominent as he was the first in the drawing game, he was involved in all the goals for Castletown. He scored one, but he created the goal for both Liam Varley and Shane Clavin. So, like, even though he might have only got, you know, he worked hard, and it showed a side to his game. You know, I'm sure Kevin O'Brien will be happy to see his work rate off the ball was incredible, and you know, his vision as well. And you know, that was even though he only got the goal from play, you know, he had a huge impact on the game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at David Riley is a talented, quality player. And I spoke to him after the game. I just said to him, you know, what happened to you today, David? And he looked at me kind of as if, you know, what are you talking about? Well, I said, it's your third county final, but you didn't win man of the match. Yeah. You know, he had 2 man of the match awards from the first 2, but his influence in there, and they can isolate him. He can win it high, he can win it low. Pat, you know all about him. You've seen him at underage and whatever. Niall is a great foil in around him then, because he'll draw it away. You know, Conor Murphy started in the corner, was excellent, but I think the talent stat was Castletown won the game by 9 points. And that 9 points came from their half-forward line that they didn't get the last day. Yeah,
well, I suppose, Peter had to drop back to the centre of the field because, as Eddie had alluded to, it is his best position. Like, Castletown had been, I suppose, tinkering around with, you know, during the summer, as you would with every year, you try something different. You know, it took them a long time to realise that, well, he's out of position here. You know, he is a player with such energy that he can go back into the backs, take that out ball, and then release it. Now, there's times he possibly overcarries it, but there's a couple of balls near the end of the game where he took it and just let fly, and he delivered them. But I seen him when in that role below in Wexford, and there was very few people down there. The day we overturned Wexford, they brought him on at half time, and he was an absolute gift because his energy and his ability to win it run that bit and deliver. He's a great striker, the ball.
Yeah, yes.
You know, Angus needed to be back up closer to the two boys inside because Angus of old scores, you know, and he knows where the goals are. His legs possibly wouldn't be as energetic, but Peter Murphy was a revelation.
Yeah.
You know, he's a fantastic young player. His ability to go back, and any ball that was on the ground near a ruck, he got up instantly. But he has strong power to get out.
Yeah.
You know, but just talking when we did say it was a defender's day, like Castletown only got 7 points from play, which would be their lowest of the whole season. Collinstown ended up with only getting 5 from play. But Castletown got something they never get. They created goal chances, created 4 goal chances, scored 3, left the easiest one behind them from the player that you would expect to 99 times, as Brendan said, out of 100 would get it. But that's just shows everyone is human, the way things go. But that's what was the difference. They don't normally create them goal chances, you know, to get a lot of points or whatever. So
Niall will really thank you for that.
well, sure, he's looking.
He's really nice to him, isn't he?
He knows himself. Like at the end of the day, he would be the first man to admit to he didn't play that well yesterday.
Yeah.
But his free taken, you know, done what was had to get us over the line. His free taken in the semi-final got us in a replay. You know, at the end of the day.
Drawn game, yeah.
But the defence as a unit, like even you know, every one of them, there was nobody you could say didn't, you know, come out with ball or work it up along, but.
Like Morgan Gavin did a great man-marking job on David Williams. Like he followed him everywhere, and you know he even came out with ball himself. And
He
you know
came up the field near the end.
He did,
He brought one. He just ran out with speed up on the corner, but he dragged it up the field. And, you know, relieving.
You know, he's been a real revelation for me this year. Like I mean, I'm sure Kevin O'Brien will be calling him for county.
But at half time, Castletown were 3 points ahead. It could have been 9 points ahead.
Yeah.
They left 1-3 from play out there. But I think they were quite happy, close. Because if you go in a semi or in a final and you're 9 points up, it's lads get into their head, no matter what management, and we all have been in managing positions, say it to people. Lads get into their head, sure, we're nearly there.
Yeah.
We're nearly there. And it only takes momentum to start moving against you with the opposition and to get a score and the crowd gets going. All of a sudden it's... But once you go in a tight situation, you say, lads, this is anybody's game here still. We're creating the chances. We're just not taking them. So we need to just work on simplifying the opportunities that arise, making sure we're in the man that's going to shoot is in the best position, take our chances, and everybody then is working shoulder to the wheel. And if they could keep the first 10 minutes as it was going in, 3 points, not like the last day where they had 5 points and in 3 minutes it was overturned.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done this time.
But I think Eddie Castletown probably learned more from the drawn game, and maybe, you know, us pundits, you know, underestimated the effect of having no semi-final and sitting for 5 weeks without a game. But it certainly seemed to sharpen Castletown that drawn semi-final.
Sharpen the Gales. Sharpen the Gales with
No, sharpen Castletown.
Game.
You know, they had no game in a semi-final. By getting out of jail, maybe in the drawn game, they learn more from that.
And Plunkett's missed. Go back to Plunkett's game. They're the same thing. And I think 5 weeks without a game is too long. You know, it's not a boxing match where a lad trains for 6 weeks to fight for a world title. You need the games. You need the games every 2-3 weeks. But like, I suppose for me, the Gales, like they're licking their wounds now. It's probably the third. I think it's 3 in a row, like county finals. And like, it's going to be hard to get on the horse again, but they have to get on the horse again.
Yeah.
And they have to say, like, you know, they were close. They've been close 3 times. You know, a puck of a ball here, a puck of a ball there, like, and they just have to go again. And no matter, you know, we can go through all the things there and everything else. And they had their chances the first day. I think we all knew, as say non-Castletown people, as you know, not one side or the other, that probably did miss their chance the first day. You didn't want to say it time from the Gales if you met them, you know, but you're thinking to yourself, you had your chance, those boys are too sharp. And then when I seen the weather yesterday and it kept rain, I said, geez, they have a chance. But the ball, really, they couldn't stick inside in the full forward line. It was right down the middle. You were on the commentary. It was right down the middle. They couldn't go to the sides. Castletown could go to the sides. Once Gallagher came in, they could put the space out. Even when Riley was playing and Niall was playing, they could go to the sides. The Gales had only one option, down the middle. And yesterday, down the middle, you seen what it was like. It was muck, dirt, everything else. Go back to the ref. he could have been blowing all day, and he probably decided not to blow for the first 15 minutes against. I think he got most of the big ones right.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, definitely. It was a very difficult day for referee now.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And the physicality of the game as well. Sliding, and there was a lot of heavy, tackles. And I thought he did a great job on it. Now, sensible.
He kept. It was a game that could have got out of hand fairly quickly. Now, we've all been in that situation again. You get away with a lot in a game like that. Like you've seen lads sliding in their knees. That's a free, but yesterday wasn't a free. You know what I mean? Like so.
Yeah, with conditions he allowed.
He allowed it, and I think he got the big decisions right. And, he obviously made a few. Everybody, but I thought he had a good game.
Yeah, and coming up to half time, it looked like he was bubbling nicely for us.
Oh.
Half time whistle came, but Castown I think just refocused in that dressing room, and they came out in the second half, and especially the 10 minutes. There was wide for wide, and I think maybe one or two frees from long distance he didn't get them. The Gaels couldn't close the gap, and I think that was the difference of it in that time. But look, the Gaels, still plenty to be proud of. I thought Micheál Daly was excellent on David Riley to keep them to one score, and another man, he's unheralded. Gets to a mountain working as their fullback Dan Higgins. Again, a great hour from him yesterday.
He was very, very solid yesterday. He's had a great year. Really, in all the games he's been playing, he's been in top form, and he can be very proud of his year. I know there's no compensation for him. But the Gaels, as Eddie says, difficult. Like Castletown were in this situation a few years ago, beaten in 3 finals. You just have to get back on the horse and keep at it and keep going.
And I know he gets a lot of accolades, but like Tommy Jogger, like he was outstanding again at times yesterday. What did he score? He got fouled for the penalty. He scored a point, came off. He was 18 years of age playing a wing forward. The first time I ever seen him beating, scoring 5 points against us in the quarter final. Who's this fella? I knew who he was, but all of a sudden realised he was this good. Like some of these lads, Angus and Niall and these boys, people don't realise. Like it was a great crowd in the park the first day, and I'd have talked to people who weren't in the park, and they were amazed. There hadn't been a hurling match in ages. Now why they went in, I don't know, but there wasn't. The county was abuzz with that first game. It was a buzz. People were, you're saying, I'm delighted that these players from both sides are getting, somebody around town is saying to me, who's that Niall O'Brien fella? I'm saying, well, he's played for Westmeath, the top level for the last 10, 15 years. Who's Jogger Niall? Like, it's great. Like,
yeah.
And I have to, I put my hands, I wish I had them playing. We're here in Mullingar, some of them, But, I couldn't, both teams are some of the best lads they ever hurled for Westmeath there in the last couple of games, and 2 great games. I know yesterday's game wasn't the quality because of the weather wasn't as good, but the excitement the first day and the excitement for a certain part of the game yesterday was worth every penny going into it.
Yeah, I think it was, and Panty, you really looked at the video and the quality made out
yeah.
of there both.
But the weather you have to take into consideration, and I mean the energy saps out of lads. Like it's difficult to run on Cusack at this time of the year. There's no bounce on it. But all the games that have been played on it, and that saps the legs out of you. You want to be very, very fit.
It is soft in their pat. Yeah. It is soft. You were on St. Lomans the other night. Like Lomans, it's a bit of it's
sand.
It is softer.
It just takes it. But Castletown, as you alluded to, they have learned the hard way.
None more than yourself, Pat.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, the bottom line is, they were in 3 county finals and they lost 3 of them, and they were agonising losers. They only lost by a puck of a ball in all 3 of them, and circumstances there was serious circumstances at the time between. I won't highlight them now, but they learned from it. But what also happened was we gained some young players. We gained Peter Clark. We gained David O'Reilly. We gained
Murphy.
2 years later, 1 year later after that, after the first final, Maloney and Peter Murphy and David and Jack Murphy came into the area.
Gallagher.
That was a huge asset. Whether Collinstown can find players like that to bring on is the issue. It is heartbreak to lose, but there's only one way. You can either lie down and say, feel sorry, or you just dust yourself down in a week or 2 and say, sure, we all love the game, love playing the game, we enjoy the summers, and spring comes around every year and you dust yourself down and you get going again, and I'm sure they will do that.
Yeah.
But the issue out there is, so will Raharney, and Clonkill will start bouncing back again, and Castletown are not going anywhere either. So it's a good competition going forward.
It is, yeah.
And your Father Daltons, who have got belief in themselves that they're after staying up, and Delvin will come with a pep in their step. So it makes for an intriguing 2026 senior championship. But
Absolutely. Before we leave it, Castown out now, and we've mentioned every other club going into Leinster. Castown an away game, I think on the 8th,
The ninth.
the Sunday,
Yeah.
out in Portlaoise, probably against Clough-Balacalla.
Yeah, Clough-Balacalla have won 3 in a row on Laois, so like they're a quality team. They have, the same as Castletown, they're sprinkled with county players, so they'll be tough opposition in Portlaoise on Sunday week. But Castletown Gagan have that experience of playing in Leinster last year and played very well, so they won't fear that at all. They'll go with it, they're going all out to win that, and I'd give them every chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, sometimes people talk about being at the right age going into Leinster, and when a team wins championship, maybe for the first time, you take your eye off the ball, you do your celebrating, if that's your aim. But that team, could have been very, very easily been in a Leinster final last year, and I think that they feel that there's a little bit of unfinished business there.
Tough Clough-Balacalla. Willie Highland, manager down there. Tough.
There will be no easy nut to crack. The only thing that might help Castletown is actually Portlaoise pitch will suit them. It's great width in it and that. Willie was there yesterday and watching on. He has a weak advantage on Castletown. But Castletown, I think, like the came back last night and they were tipping around. They celebrate today, and I think that's it. Closed up tonight. They're back training Thursday.
Yeah.
They're not. It's like you said. Like they know that they have a chance of moving on to another game. They can celebrate later in the year if they want to, but they are prepared to give it a shot anyway.
Yeah. And no injuries yesterday, Pat.
I don't think so.
No.
Actually, David O'Reilly, like he has a serious problem with his shoulder. It actually popped out and popped in again. In the first couple of minutes.
Down in the right corner forward.
The first ball he went for.
Right.
He got a tip and he went down and it popped out, he said, and in. But it actually happened all instantly. And he was able to get up and go on.
Keep going.
But he does need surgery
and I
to fix this.
Last year, Pat, in the game against Thomastown, like his injury, was a game changer. Really,
it probably was. Yeah.
But Leinster is a real minefield issue because you have Nafina, who got out of jail, the All-Ireland champions the other night above in Dublin, and you have Ballyhale with TJ and all crew were all back gunning for victory.
Henry and the boys.
KK are after winning 3 in a row. Clough-Balacalla 3 in a row. So
St Martin's, I think, in Wexford.
That's right.
They're after winning a big back-to-back as well.
So there's nothing simple in the hurling.
So it's a nice championship, something to look forward to as well in the next couple of weeks. Lads, just for our viewers home, just what we have coming up over the next couple of weeks. Just been handed this piece of paper, so hopefully I'll be able to make sense of it. Monday the 3rd next week, we're going to pick our hurling and football teams of the year. We'll also have a review of the junior football finals. Monday the 10th, we're going to be having a chat with some of the members of the 2000 minor football winners, 25-year anniversary. Monday the 17th, we'll have members of the 2000 All-Ireland under 21s and some of the members of the senior Leinster 2004 winning teams. So we'll have some of those lads in for a chat as well. So we've plenty of stories there from that. We have a special one then on Monday the 24th, how the Westmeath Crest was made plus special guests. And then on December the 1st, our season finale, where we'll be presenting the teams of the years with their awards, with special guests in here as well. That's just in the early stages, but we have a good plan in operation for that, and hopefully that'll bring the club year to an end. It's been a great year. We have all bar our 2 junior finals finished. It's been hugely entertaining. We tried to keep you involved and keep people interested in what was going on. If you were home or abroad, we know that we get plenty of listeners. We love to hear the stories. We love to hear the fact that somebody on a podcast said something and it became ammunition to win a game or to be used in a dressing room, because that's what we're all about, lads. We're only about opinions. We're not experts by any manner of means, and the only difference between 4 lads sitting at a bar and us 4 here together is there's no drink involved here with us. That's the only difference. It's about opinions. We'll give it to you how we see it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, that's great. You can like us and subscribe to us and follow us and everything else you do on those podcasts. Listen to us later in the car or listen to us live here tonight. We're delighted once we get the numbers. We thank Westmeath County Board for giving us the go-ahead to do it. We hope it'll continue into the future, and there's great plans for this podcast going forward to 2026. The lads will be back again, don't worry. We're not finished with you yet, lads. We'll get through the month of November anyway. We'll give you a break for Christmas, all right. But it's been great having you all through the club championships. Your expert opinion, Eddie on the right hand side, involved Westmeath Hurling, involved football hurling club down through the years. Pat O'Brien is an absolute gem. Tommy Gallagher. I think Tommy's home now, so he might be able to see you.
I'll have to bring him out to dinner.
But he has your christening as the Roy Keane of the Year VTV podcast.
I tell you, we mightn't be back if we have to pick teams of the year, because a lot of lads might be saying, time to get them out of that chair.
No, we'll do it, Pat. Don't you worry. We'll be fair and neutral on that. Don't you worry about that. Brendan Shaw has stepped from one side of the fence to the other. Brendan, of course, was our county board secretary up to the middle of the year when circumstances meant he had to step away from that role. But he's been a huge asset to us here in the podcast. I'd say you never went to as many games in your life, Brendan, as you have in the last 4 or 5 months. And it's great to get your opinion on both hurling and football, and also that you can give us the official line of what goes on behind the scenes as well. See you next week, lads.